The longsword is the most powerful sword ever made. It replaced the arming sword because it hit harder, cut deeper, and dominated every battlefield it touched. That is the story everyone tells. That is the story Hollywood shows you. Lord of the Rings, Game of Thrones. Every fantasy hero carrying a blade that belongs in both hands because both hands means twice the destruction. Every word of that is backwards. The longsword did not replace the arming sword. It replaced the shield. And understanding that single fact changes everything about why medieval armies actually chose this weapon. The arming sword was a masterpiece of single-handed design. Blade averaging 75 to 90 centimeters. Weight between 1.0 and 1.5 kilograms. Balanced precisely so the point of handling sat close to the hilt, making it fast in the hand, easy to redirect, efficient in a fight. Every soldier who carried one understood what the other hand was for. You held the sword in your dominant hand. You held the buckler in the other. The buckler was a small, round shield, iron-rimmed, maybe 30 to 40 centimeters across. Not for blocking arrows, not for stopping lance charges. It was a close combat tool. You used it to deflect incoming blows, bind your opponent's blade, create angles of attack the sword alone could not reach. The English archers at Agincourt in 1415 carried sword and buckler as standard issue. So did most lightly armored infantry across Europe for over a century. The combination was the system. The sword was only half of it. Here is the detail that matters. Not everyone could carry two things at once. An archer with a bow already has his hands full. A pikeman holding a 5-meter shaft cannot also hold a buckler. A handgunner managing a matchlock and powder flask has no free hand for a secondary shield. Lightly equipped soldiers, men already loaded with the primary weapon their commanders assigned them, needed a sidearm that did not require a second piece of kit to be effective on its own. The Burgundian armies of Charles the Bold worked this out systematically. Charles was obsessed with order and military regulation, issuing detailed ordinances throughout the 1460s and 1470s that prescribed exactly what each soldier was to carry. His mounted archers, lightly equipped infantry doing the same tactical job that English longbowmen did, were issued longswords as their standard secondary weapon, not sword and buckler, not arming sword and shield. A longsword. One weapon. Both hands on it. The English archers they were modeled on used sword and buckler. The Burgundians looked at that combination and replaced the two items with one. The reason is physics. Not power, not reach. Physics. When you put two hands on a sword hilt, the geometry of force changes completely. With one hand, the binding leverage you can apply to your opponent's blade in close contact is limited by a single point of grip. With two hands spread apart on a longer hilt, you can apply torque from both ends simultaneously. The longsword's grip ran 20 to 30 centimeters, compared to roughly 10 to 12 centimeters on an arming sword. That distance between the hands is a lever. The longer the lever, the more rotational force you can apply without additional strength. This is what a buckler did. When an opponent's blade came in, the buckler gave your other hand something to push with, deflect with, bind with. A second contact point, a second source of leverage in the bind. The longsword, with a hand at each end of the hilt, replicates that second contact point in a single weapon. Fiore de Liberi documented this precisely. In his Fior di Battaglia, written around 1410, the Italian knightly combat master described longsword technique in armored combat as a system built around leverage and control rather than cutting power. Half swording, where the fighter grips the central part of the blade with the left hand to gain a shorter, more rigid thrusting tool, appears throughout his armored combat chapters. The left hand grips steel with bare fingers. Not because medieval fighters were reckless, because the control gained from that second contact point on the weapon was worth the risk. Filippo Vadi, writing later in the 15th century, recommended a sword sharp only at the tip for armored combat. The edges were largely irrelevant. What mattered was the stiff, controlled thrust delivered with both hands in close cooperation. Here is the counter-argument, and it is a real one. The sword and buckler combination was not abandoned because it was inferior. It was arguably equal to the longsword in single combat. Most practitioners who have trained extensively with both systems agree that sword and buckler roughly evens out the longsword's two-handed advantage. The buckler adds defensive coverage that the longsword's guard cannot replicate. It protects the hand. It gives the free arm something to do when the blade is occupied. The Swiss were using longswords. The Burgundians were using longswords. Both armies were fighting each other with broadly similar secondary weapons, and the evidence does not suggest either had a systematic combat advantage from the choice. The advantage was not in the fight. It was in everything before the fight. A soldier carrying bow, quiver, and longsword is carrying 3 items. A soldier carrying bow, quiver, arming sword, and buckler is carrying 4. In a campaign where men march 20 kilometers a day, eat when they can, and sleep in whatever shelter they find, the difference between 3 items and 4 items is not trivial. Weight is not the only issue. Bucklers snag on undergrowth. They clank against other equipment. They require a separate carrying arrangement. The longsword hangs from the belt, accessible with one motion, deployable immediately without needing to grab a second item from a different attachment point. Military logistics are not glamorous. They do not appear in chronicles the way battles do, but they decide wars more reliably than tactics. The longsword became the hero's weapon of choice in modern popular imagination, not because of its military history, but because of its visual language. Both hands on a blade is more dramatic than one hand on a blade and one hand on a small round shield. Lord of the Rings needed Aragorn to look like a warrior, not a man holding a saucepan lid in his offhand. Game of Thrones needed swords that read as powerful, not as half of a 2-item system whose other half is a buckler. The longsword entered fantasy as a symbol of knightly power because it reads as power. Maximum commitment. Both hands. No shield. The visual says, this person needs nothing else. The historical reality is that this visual is exactly correct, just not for the reason everyone assumes. The longsword needed nothing else, not because it was so destructive that a shield would be redundant. It needed nothing else because it was designed to be nothing else. The second hand was always going to hold something. The question was whether that something was a separate piece of kit or the other half of the same hilt. Medieval armies answered that question the same way good engineers answer any design question. They reduced the number of components without reducing the function. When Burgundian commanders told their archers to carry longswords instead of sword and buckler, they were not making a statement about which weapon was deadlier. They were solving a supply problem. One item that does the job of 2 is not a more powerful weapon. It is a simpler system. The longsword did not win because it hit harder. It won because it was easier to carry, easier to issue, easier to account for in an ordnance, and effective enough in close combat that the trade-off made sense. The arming sword was a better tool for the specific job of one-handed fighting. The longsword was a better tool for the overall problem of being a soldier who sometimes needed to fight at close quarters and sometimes did not. That is not a story about the most powerful blade ever made. That is a story about what actually drives military decisions. And the answer almost always is not what looks good in a fight. It is what works when everything else is also going wrong.